Krishna Surya Prabhu, Hare Krishna. If you're in California, it's pretty early.
Hare Krishna. No, I'm actually on the East Coast doing some traveling. So
Okay.
I
That's a
can,
little easier.
yeah, Haribo.
Jaya Radha Ramana Kunda Bihar Radha Madhav Kunda Bihar Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhajadana Pandana Yashodanandana Bhajadana Pandana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Ramanava Vihara Jaya Radha Ramanava Kunda Bihari Gopi Dhanavallabha Girivardhari Gopi Dhanavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhajadana Pandana Yashodanandana Bhajadana Pandana Yamunakira Manatharati Yamunakira Manatharati Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Damodar Radha Damodar Shri Radhe Radha Damodar Radha Damodar Shri Radhe Jaya Radha Damodar Radha Damodar Shri Radhe Radha Damodar Radha Damodar Shri Radhe Jaya Lalita Vishakta Lalita Vishakta Shri Radhe Lalita Vishakta Lalita Vishakta Shri Radhe Jaya Nitai Gurusundar Nitai Gurusundar Gora Hari Nitai Gurusundar Nitai Gurusundar Gora Hari Jaya Nitai Nitai Nimanitai Jaya Nimanitai 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 Jaya Nimanitai Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Guru Dev Guru Dev Guru Dev Jaya Guru Dev Guru Dev Guru Dev Guru Dev Jaya Guru Dev Nitai Hari Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Nitai Gora, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Nitai Gora, Hari Bol. Jayam Vishnupad Paramamsa Parvajikchaya Asata Satashi Srimad Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramamsa Parvajikchaya Astata Satashi Srimad Divine Grace. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anant Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Charge Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shami Kun Radhakum Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Navani Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Maya Ki Jai. Yamuna Maya Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Go. All glories to the Assembled Devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the Assembled Devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the Assembled Devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you, dear family, for rising early and coming to Bhagavatam class. Today we're reading from chapter 10 of the 7th canto, text 15 to 17. And the chapter is entitled Prahlad, the Best Among Exalted Devotees. So we have 3 verses and a very short purport. Shri Prahlad Uvacha Varamvaraya Itate Varadesham Maheshwara Yadanindat Pita Me Tvam Avidvam Teja Aishvaram Vidha Marsha Shaya Shakshat Sarvaloka Gurum Prabhum Bhratridheti Vrishadristis Twad Bhakte Maicha Gavahan Tasmat Pita Me Puyeta Duranta Dustarad Aghat Kutaste Panga Samjusta Tada Kripana Vatsala. Does anyone want to try?
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me, Prabhu?
Loud and clear.
I am unable to hear you at all. I'll give it a shot. Shri Varada Uvacha Varam Varaya Etate Varadesham Maheshwara Yad Anindat Pitame Tvam Vidams Teja Aishwaram Virha Vara Shashai Virha Marsha Shaya Sakshat Sarvaloka Gurum Prabhum Brat Draheti Vrisha Drishtis Dvad Bhakte Mahi Chaghavan Tasmat Pita Me Bhuyeta Durantad Dustarad Hagat Utas Te Pangasam Drishtas Tara Kripanavat Salah.
Anyone else?
Praraduvacha Varangvare etate Varadeshan Maheshwara Yadanindat Pitame Tvama Vidvangs Teja Aishwaram Vidhamarshashaya Sakshat Sarvaloka Gurum Prabhum Bhratirheti Mrisha Drishtis Twad Bhakte Mai Chaghavan Tasmat Pita Me Puyeta Duranta Dustirad Bhutasте Panga Sangdrishtas Tada Kripana Vatsala.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sachi. That was very beautiful. Shri Prahlad Uvacha. Prahlad Maharaj said, Varam, benediction. Varaye, I pray. Etat, this. Te, from you. Varada Isha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who offers benedictions even to such exalted demigods as Brahma and Shiva. Maha Ishvara, O my Supreme Lord. Yat, that. Anindat, vilified. Pita, father. Me, my. Twam, you. Avidvan, without knowledge of. Tejaha, strength. Aishvaram, supremacy. Vidha, being polluted. Amarsha, with anger. Ashaya, within the heart. Shakshat, directly. Sarvaloka Gurum, unto the supreme spiritual master of all living beings. Prabhum, unto the supreme master. Bhratruha, the killer of his brother. Iti, thus. Mrisha, Dristi, falsely envious because of a false conception. Twat bhakte, unto your devotee. Mai, unto me. Cha, and. Aghavan, who committed heavily sinful activities. Tasmad, from that. Pita, father. Me, my. Puyeta, may be purified. Durantat, very great. Dustarat, difficult to pass over. Aghat, from all sinful activities. Putaha, although he was purified. Te, of you. Apanga, by the glance over him. Samdristaha, being looked at. Tada, at that time. Kripana Vatsala, O you who are merciful to the materialistic. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prahlad Maharaj said, O Supreme Lord, because you are so merciful to the fallen souls, I ask you for only one benediction. I know that my father, at the time of his death, had already been purified by your glance upon him. But because of his ignorance of your beautiful power and supremacy, he was unnecessarily angry at you, falsely thinking that you were the killer of his brother. Thus, he directly blasphemed your lordship, the spiritual master of all living beings, and committed heavily sinful activities directed against me, your devotee. I wish that he be excused for these sinful activities. Purport. Although Hiranyakasipu was purified, as soon as he came in contact with the Lord's lap and the Lord saw him, Prahlad Maharaj still wanted to hear from the Lord's own mouth that his father had been purified by the Lord's causeless mercy. Prahlad Maharaj offered this prayer to the Lord for the sake of his father. As a Vaishnava son, despite all inconveniences imposed upon him by his father, he could not forget his father's affection. Om Agina Timirandasya Gina Gina Shalakaya Shakshun Vilinam Shakshun Mintam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadanti Swapadantikam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Tinamane Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Sritatmane Shri Guru Kumara Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Tinamane Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Srinyavari Paskacha Desachane Vanchakapatarubhyascha Kripasindhibhyevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasti Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The translation one more time. Prahlad Maharaj said, O Supreme Lord, because you are so merciful to the fallen souls, I ask you for only one benediction. I know that my father at the time of his death had already been purified by your glance upon him, but because of his ignorance of your beautiful power and supremacy, he was unnecessarily angry at you, falsely thinking that you were the killer of his brother. Thus he directly blasphemed your lordship, the spiritual master of all living beings, and committed heavily sinful activities directed against me, your devotee. I wish that he be excused for these sinful activities. So, Prahlad Maharaj, of course, he didn't want any benediction, actually. A few verses back, it was speaking about how that if one is serving to get a material result, then that's like a mercantile exchange. So if we approach the Lord with material desires, then it's like dear Lord, please give me my daily bread, or or whatever the specific desire is. Um, so Prahlad Maharaj did not want any benediction, but still, he did make this one request, and it wasn't on his own, for his own self. It was for his father. Interestingly, it was Father's Day a few days back, last Sunday, and on that day, uh, everyone has a father, so Father's Day is a special day where people reflect on their fathers. They honor their fathers. They appreciate their fathers. Maybe give them a gift or a card or something, but at least some kind of communication. Of course, some people have their fathers have passed on already, but they still reflect on their fathers. Um, and Prahlad had actually been through a lot, within 5 years, you and despite the intensity of what he experienced, what he really remembered most, as Prabhupada said at the end of the purport, his father's affection. Um, because even though it's Hiranyakasipu, just as any father would give affection and love to their child, it's just a natural thing. And so it was really just a short time where Hiranyakasipu was so intense and so terrifying in his behavior, um, with his son, that is, but with the universe and everything, he had already taken over the entire universe and subjugated everyone. Um, but in the verse, Prahlad says, I know that my father, at the time of his death, had already been purified by your glance upon him. But because of his ignorance of your beautiful power and supremacy, his beautiful power, and that power was manifest uh, in the form of Lord Nrsingadev. For everyone else present, that power wasn't so beautiful. It was scary. you know, no one wanted to approach him. He was so angry. Um, and so Prahlad's saying that he didn't recognize your supremacy, O Lord. And Hiranyakasipu was actually trying to achieve supremacy. And he actually thought he had all bases covered, to make him the supreme enjoyer, controller, so on, proprietor. Um, but just like we can devise all kinds of plans and make arrangements and, anticipate so many things. But ultimately, Krishna shows often through his material energy that he is in control, or more directly to us, that we are not the controllers, we're not the enjoyers, we're not the proprietors. We don't own anything. can't take anything with us when we leave this body. So despite our efforts, or our beliefs, say like we're trying to achieve something, um, and we work very hard for it, it kind of makes us think that we are the ones who actually made it happen. Um, Krishna says that we're not the doers. Um, and that kind of, thinking that we can make things happen, and which we do, we have some influence, but ultimately, it's everything happens by the sanction of Krishna. Um, so we have to be careful that we don't feed our illusion that uh, I'm making these things happen, because Sarvakarana Karanam, Krishna is the cause of all causes. Um, and so Prahlad says that my father was falsely thinking that you were the killer of his brother. And that's false for Hiranyakasipu to think that, because in actuality, um, no one can slay the soul. The soul can't be slaved. So, um, and Hiranyakasipu was getting, although this was Leela, I mean, it's Yoga Maya setting all this up, and there were higher forces behind even before Hiranyakasipu was born in this pastime. Um, but his actions brought those things upon himself, where he said, is he here? Is he in this pillar? Sure enough, um, Krishna came to protect his devotee. So even behind the worst demon, Krishna is arranging all of that, and it was for his pleasure. Even though Hiranyakasipu subjugated the entire universe and put so many people into distress, and uh, killed so many people, disrupted so many brahminical activities. I mean, just one atrocity after another, just all over. Still, there was divine arrangement behind it. Just like in the Kali Yuga, it's going to get worse. Um, Krishna sanctions so many things. Sanctioning doesn't necessarily mean that he wants those things to happen, or that but it's all related to karma, individual, collective karma, you know, national karma, world karma, and things happen over time with the yugas naturally. So, but um, one other thing that Prahlad Maharaj said is that my father committed heavily sinful activities directed against me, your devotee. And so it wasn't like, I mean, if you think about it, it's traumatizing. It's the things that Prahlad went through as a child, even as an adult, that would be traumatizing for people, right? The things where your own father, who's given you loving affection, is trying to kill you in over and over in different ways, and then he himself tries to kill. Um, so so we all have had different traumas. Being in the material world means that you have you're going to have traumas, um, and it's due to our karma, previous sinful activities or even pious activities. It's karma. That's all karma. Um, But the experiences that Prahlad was going through was to glorify his devotee, for Krishna, to glorify Krishna's devotee. I mean, how glorious is Krishna's pure devotee? Um, and he also said that um, he said, for the sake of his father, he's making this prayer for the sake of his father. And Prabhupada in the purport, he says, as a Vaishnava son, despite all the inconveniences imposed upon him. Now you think about that. If somebody's trying to kill you, would you consider that an inconvenience? So Prabhupada is this is he's giving the perspective of Prahlad that they were inconveniences. It wasn't like it was because he was so purely loving Krishna that there was no distraction, and even the most materially dangerous situations did not waver his focus on the Lord. It didn't disturb his bhav. Um, so Prahlad was fully aware of his father's attempts to kill him. It's not like he was in denial um, and as a way to cope. No. Um, Despite all that, he had aware of his father's ill intentions. You know, he was very forgiving and very compassionate um, and selfless in his prayer, his benediction that he asked for. He didn't have hatred in his heart. I mean, um, there's no malice. And I looked up this word malice. Um, Malice is the intention or desire to cause harm, pain, or distress to another person. It represents an active, ill-willed state of mind where someone deliberately seeks to upset or injure someone else, often for personal gratification. And that's from the Webster's Dictionary. So on the contrary, he was very forgiving and compassionate and had affectionate feelings for his father, um, which is a really deep lesson and example for us to aspire for within our hearts and within our dealings with each other. Because the experiences of emotional pain and hurt that we feel from abusive behavior or traumatic experiences or witnessing traumatic events, they may feel even more intense to us than the extreme, unbelievable um, experiences that Prahlad went through. Um, but uh, but if we're not pure, denying or repressing our pain doesn't help us to be released or unbound by the pain or to help transcend the pain. So, um, my Guru Maharaj, I forgot which book it's in, but he gives a, a a process, like a therapeutic process, to go through how dealing with traumatic experiences or experiences where we feel abused or something similar like that. And he says that we should name it, face it, feel it, and release it. So name it is just like, okay, acknowledging, calling it for what it is. Okay, this happened to me. I didn't like it. Okay. Uh, so we look at it for what it is. We face it. That means like being fully present to it, you know, and then feel it. We identify the feelings coming from that experience or those experiences, and then we release it and let it go, which relates to forgiveness, which it may sound simple, the process, right? The four things, but this could take years to forgive and or years to finally just to do the first step, name it, you know, because um, sometimes we've had experiences that we had to uh, repress the pain just to kind of function in life, you know. And so there are parts of us that helped us get through things in the best way that we knew how to, you know. Um, I used to work, you showed my also. I used to work with juvenile delinquents as a counselor. And it's like maximum security for juvenile delinquents, um, with a razor wire fence, just like a prison. And and so we would get kids from all over Pennsylvania, mainly the majority were from Philadelphia. And they've been through so much. I mean, it's just really intense stuff they've been through. Um, and so when someone does something that's so horrendous or just unbelievable, that means there's something behind it. There's some reasons why. There's something inside that's creating this because there's a phrase where it says hurt people hurt people. That means the people that are hurt, unless it's dealt with in a healthy way, unconsciously or consciously hurt other people or people, traumatize other people, you know. And so my first case that I had when I started working there um, was this young man. He had so many traumatic experiences from the time he was a baby. He was a twin, and before he was 2 years old, his father in the same room strangled his mother to death. And then when he was 12, he was babysitting his younger cousins, and they found a gun, a pistol, and he was messing around with it and pointed it at his little cousin's head, who was 9, and the gun went off. And so the background of uh, if somebody had seen the things that he did to get to where he was in our facility, they wouldn't understand all the things that he went through that impacted some of the things he did that made him come to our facility, the crimes he committed, and so on. So it's similar in the dealings in our relationships that we don't fully understand why someone may say or do what they do. But one thing Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj said is that every interaction is a cry for love or an extension of love. So if we examine things that way, then we always come back to love, because when there's a cry for love, we do what we can to give love and whatever, or to help in some kind of way. So the name it, face it, feel it, and release it, may have many different layers to it. It may take a long time to get to the point of being able to fully release it or to forgive, you know, um, to it may take time to give ourselves that self-compassion to be able to be compassionate, more compassionate to others. So that Prahlad's last sentence in this verse, I wish that he be excused for these sinful activities. So Prahlad is a far cry from most people in the material world. Because he's only thinking of the welfare of his father and the situation, despite what he's been through. I wish that he be excused for these sinful activities. So he has 108% forgiving heart. Uh, his Prahlad's distress was the distress of others. It wasn't the distress. He wasn't focused on the distress that his father put him through. He was focused on the distress that his father was experiencing due to his own ignorance and being illusioned. So he didn't harbor ill will toward his father. He was seeing beyond all that, with a deeper understanding and compassion. And Srila Prabhupada concluded that purport that he could not forget his father's affection. I was clearing out some things from our shed, and I found a card from a year after Devaki was born. And what it was a poem that Chintamani had written on behalf of Devaki, and she would and like expressing what that 1-year-old child would feel for the father, for what the father does in his life. So we had a kick out of that, reading that and sharing it with Devaki on Father's Day. um, but so going back to this point about forgiveness and compassion, there are many examples in the scripture of this. Lord Nityananda, when Jagat Madai hit him with the water pot, he wanted him to be forgiven. Lord Chaitanya was about to, sever some heads. Another example is Draupadi, when Ashwatthama killed all her sons at the end of I think it was the last day of the battle, the Kurukshetra war. And of course, the Pandavas wanted to kill Asvatthama, but Draupadi said no. She was thinking of what it would be like for that person, the mother of Asvatthama, because she herself was a mother. She wouldn't want that to happen to her. So that was quite an extreme level of compassion, despite the pain of losing her sons suddenly. So that's one of the things we can do, that put ourselves in another person's shoes. Would I like to be on the receiving end of what I am saying or doing to someone? You know, um, and the answer should always be yes, because we're doing loving things. you we're exchanging with love. Uh, Another example of forgiveness is Jesus on the cross saying, "Please forgive them; they know not what they do." Um, Haridas Thakur, he was very forgiving. I mean, they were beating him in 22 marketplaces. Um, but when they expressed to him their concern that he's not dying, so they're gonna be in trouble. Haridas Thakur was thinking about them, so then he feigned death, um, like withdrawing his life force, so it appeared like he was dead. So there's many examples. There's other examples too, but I'm gonna leave some time for questions or comments. Um, the last thing I was thinking about was how it's easy to blame the instrument of our karma. But the instrument is just that. It's just an instrument, just like if you're playing an instrument, playing a mridanga, kartos, harmonium, whatever, trumpet. It is just that. It's an instrument. And when we hear beautiful music, for example, we're usually glorifying the person behind it, not the instrument itself. And so in this world and in our lives, everyone that we interact with are instruments. The things that happen in our lives are instruments of our own karma. And some of the music from those instruments you may not like, but they are still instruments, not necessarily the cause of our karma. So there were some other things I wanted to share from another book, but the Guru Maharaj's book, which I'll share if there's time later, but I want to open up for questions or comments if anyone has.
Haribol Jagannath Prabhu, accept my humble obeisances. Jai, thank you for such a thought-provoking class. I have a comment and some questions. This last part of the purport, it says that Prahlad says that he could not forget his father's affection, which means for me, I'm understanding that as appreciating what people do, even if it comes, like you're saying, surrounded by um, stuff that you really don't appreciate, stuff, the way people act, say, do things that are hurtful or are insensitive or are just plain evil. Um, so we're told to forgive,
Apparently,
not
yeah.
to, we're told to forgive, but not to forget, right? To forgive a person's actions, but not to forget what they're doing. And why? Because we don't want to be in a situation where we're allowing them to repeat that. We also try to appreciate the good that someone does, but not excuse the bad that they do. And Guru Bhakti Maharaj often said that real compassion means to help somebody. You don't just have compassion with someone and then, ignore the bad things that they're doing or ignore the you don't ignore the whole package. You appreciate what they're doing, but you try to help them to move because, like you said, all of these things that we're experiencing is our karma. Somebody is the instrument of our karma, so we don't necessarily, dislike the instrument of the karma. We try to deal with, okay, this is coming to me for a reason, but also that person also is creating karma by what they're doing as well. So you have to have compassion for yourself, but compassion for that person too, and use that understanding to help that person also realize what they're going through. Um, how do you do that? Yeah, I know everything boils down to intent. Like you were saying, the intent of people. But yeah, how do we? And there's so much of that going on right now. It's kind of like it's being brought to the forefront with all the situations going on externally in the material world, even internally in our spiritual enclave. Well, I'm hearing so many different things. This movement towards it's directed towards against women. It's all kinds of stuff is going on. How do we approach this with compassion, but not in a way that allows it to go on, that we try to do something about it, but we do something about it in a compassionate way so that everybody can learn from the situations? I know it's a little bit of a rambling question, but
No, it's a great question, and you covered a lot of points that helped give more relevance to the question. And I think I have an answer for you from something I was going to read from Bhakti Tirthamaraj in his book, Reflection 6, Radha Sunya, Missing Mercy. And this is on page 29. It's called, this section is called Help Our Peers Rather Than Criticize. We find in the purport of the Nectar of Instruction, text 6, quote, even if a devotee seems to be engaged in abominable activities, he should be considered a sadhu, a saintly person, because his actual identity is that of one engaged in the loving service of the Lord. In other words, he is not to be considered an ordinary human being, end quote. We sometimes get angry at a person for being dirty, even though that person may be in the shower getting clean. The point is that, yes, there's some dirt, but such persons becoming clean by taking a shower. Should we then throw them out of or consider them to be useless, treating them like an outcast or getting angry? When a devotee behaves like a non-devotee, becomes angry at an authority, or the authority gets angry at the devotee in an excessive way, it can easily result in aparadh. Srila Prabhupada wrote in a letter to Vrinda Devi on October 14, 1971, I have noted your several complaints against the devotees, but it would be better to set the example rather than to criticize the effects of the devotees. We should always remember that we recruit members from people in general. It is not expected that every one of our members should be immediately to the standard qualification. The best thing for you is to set the example by your personal behavior and try to reform the others, not by criticizing, but by friendly behavior. It's easy to criticize. The real challenge for us is to help improve the situation by helping in some way, especially by setting a good example. I was listening to a class by Bhakti Maharaj, and it was called The Greatest Battle is the War of Consciousness.
Mm.
And in there was this, he was giving an example of how a community in Africa dealt with transgressions by a community member. And what they did was they would call the community together, and they would set the offender in the center of the circle, and then everyone would say something, and what they would say may not be what you expect. Everyone would share the wonderful examples and experiences they had from that person, describing the wonderful character of that person, exemplified by personal examples in their own lives, what they have seen in relation to this person. And so basically, as he described it, is they were love bombing him. And what they were saying is that, look, this is who we know you are. We know you've done this thing over here, but this is how we see you. You know, this is the real you. And that's what we want to come out more. You know,
Hold on,
and
Prabhu. Dasya Prabhu, you need to mute your microphone.
thank you. And so, I mean, that was just such an amazing example for me. It's like completely flipping it all the way around, where you're seeing the good in the person, and everyone is flooding that person with the good that they see in him, you know, which is pretty transformational. So I don't know if that fully answers your question, but that's my brief answer.
So it's
Or
an
Bhakti
intervention,
answer.
an
Sorry?
intervention with love. So maybe that's what we need here in Gita Nagari, is an intervention with love.
We need that everywhere, all over the world. But really, as the title of that class said, the greatest war is the battle of our own consciousness. And that's really where it needs to manifest more, because we can be an instrument to, if we purify ourselves, we can be more of an instrument to bring about more purification for all of us.
Thank you.
Any other last comment or question? Thank you, Mother Shoda.
Amazing class. Thank you so much, Dad. So incredible.
I hope you don't mind. I shared that about the Father's Day card. that you wrote when you were 1 years old.
It's okay. That just helps me see more how much it means to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. It looks like Radhadama is making their appearance. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Sorry we didn't have more time for comments. Hari Hari Bol. Radha Damodara Radha 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 Jaya Lalita Vishaka Lalita Vishaka Sri Radha Lalita Vishaka Lalita Shaka Sri Radha Jaya Lalita Vishaka Lalita Shaka Cha 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 and died on died 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 over from died died from died forever died over from died over from died Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Srimad is the language, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Kumar, Srila Prabhupada, Ananta Gaudiya Vaishnava Nikita. Gita Nagari Dam Gita. Go to Premanandi. All glories to the Son of Lotus. Glories to the Son of Lotus. All glories to the Son of Lotus. All glories to the Lotus feet from the Lotus of the Lord. The Lord is the Lord, the Master, I'm not to be able to go on the list. My years and Jesus. Well, we're not to be still as well. Telling people to do it. You think about it, you know, my Lord, I'm in the south, and I'm in the right. Very similar to those the practice and most of the use in the rest of the Bible. I'm not to be used to the fans are a movement that's good enough. Such stuff of this. For the Father.
Jagannath Pandit, I don't know if you can hear me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Prabhu, thank you for a wonderful class. A question. Do you have, because I know you have a lot of Gurudev's tapes, do you have his tape, Spiritual Approach to Being Judgmental? I would like to get a copy of that, please, or at least to listen to it when you have a chance.
Have you, in my actually already on this time of dietary?
Say that again.
This time of dietary, have you ever been
I can't understand what you're saying.
ISKCON Desire Tree. Have you heard of that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Guru Maharaj's classes are on there also. And
Oh,
that one's
really?
probably on there. Yeah. It
I
might
did
be
not.
on there. Yeah.
Okay. Can I just listen to it or do I have to purchase it?
No, it's just, I mean, you can get so many lectures from so many gurus, so many people.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I did
It's by person, you can go, yeah.
I did know.
Mataji's, Prabhu's, Maharajas.
What do you say, Master G? It's
It's
awesome.
a huge resource. I mean, it's so much there.
Okay, it's kind of desire tree. All right.
So may that fulfill your desire.
Thank you very, very much.
Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
And I do remember that example that he gave about the child who perhaps was acting, in a deviant way, and how they would surround him and talk about all of his good qualities and um, you know pastimes that made them happy, where he was really positive, in the community. I do remember that, and that's very, very impactful.
Yeah,
Very.
I can send you the class.
Okay.
It's a video on YouTube, and he's speaking at Reverend Massey's church.
Ah, our good friend, Reverend Massey.
Yeah.
I
So
spoke to him, I think it was last year, uh, just before Guru Dev's memorial, the 20th year, Tara Baba, to see if he wanted to come, you know.
you talked to him? You reached out to him?
Yeah, but he already had something planned, you know, for that
Is
day.
he? Where is he? Is he in the Maryland area or Harrisburg?
You know, hmm, I am not sure.
Because way back he was in Harrisburg, but I think he
I remember,
moved to
yeah.
Maryland at a
Well, he
church there.
for Harrisburg though. No, remember he was in D.C.
Yeah, but originally he was in Harrisburg, and then
Right,
he went to DC.
right, exactly. Yeah, because Anasuya actually had one of the Rath Yatras at the park, at the Reservoir Park, where he spoke that time for the I think it was the African Arts Festival. Remember when he spoke?
Yep, I
The
remember that. I remember the talk too.
Yeah, and Brahmadas and Gita, they were his guards. They were on stage with him. He was flanked by both of them, looking like the men in black.
Yeah, I remember him talking about how in a tribe in Africa the mother would have a mantra that she would chant, uh, even before conception, and then during the pregnancy, and
And
then during the
before
birth,
it was
and
named,
then after.
chant. Yeah,
Say it again. Yeah, it would. She
the
and the
baby would
child would be
the mother know what the name was going to be instead of the other way around.
right,
I
right.
remember. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was amazing. Remind me to tell you a pastime about one of Jambavant's baby and Gurudev before their, what's the first ceremony? I think it was before the first grain ceremony
Hmm. Yeah.
and also the
Unless.
ceremony. We were in Harwood and Gurudev was away and it didn't look like he was going to be back in time for the naming ceremony, right?
Hmm.
And when he did come back, I think I said something to him like, Maharaj, would you like to, you know, meet the baby first, before you, give him a name? And you know what Gurudev told me?
Already met him.
He said, I already met him. And it was just
Yeah.
so matter of factly, I already met him. In my little pea brain, I'm like, wow. you know? Because
Yeah.
I'm thinking he needed to get to know the baby or at least meet him to get a feel for maybe what he wanted to call him, to maybe see what his characteristics was, or something like that, or personality. I don't know. But yeah, he told me he had already been with the baby.
Yeah. I remember when he had the naming ceremony for Jana right next door in the
hmm
Prasadam, where the old temple was, and
hmm
Lokanath Swami was there, and yeah, he shared a lot, which is coming true in her life. It's like wow.
hmm Hare Krishna. Okay, Prabhu. Yeah, thank
All
you.
right. Thank you for
I'll
sharing.
look forward to that tape though.
Ja.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Haribo Tarka Prabhu signing off. Sorry to close the call, close the Zoom, but Radha Damodar is always in your heart anyway. So even if not directly in your vision, they're